My mom had come out, she just kind of went into tears. I try not to talk about, possible deployments or stuff like that around her.
What if everything you believed about a family, one that claimed to be built on love, faith, and unity, wasn't just complicated but quietly unraveling right before your eyes? You remember how Sister Wives started a bold new take on an old idea. One man for women and a house full of kids, all trying to make plural marriage work in the modern world. At first, it felt different, refreshing. Even there was something kind of hopeful about it. A promise that, with enough trust and teamwork, even the most unconventional families could thrive. But somewhere along the way, something changed, maybe. You didn't notice it right away. The early seasons were filled with smiles. Group dinners, shared birthdays. It was messy, sure, but what family isn't? And besides, they always seemed to find their way back to each other, didn't they? Then came the cracks, the long silences, the tight-lipped interviews. The way some of the wives started shrinking into the background, the way others started finding their voices, and the way Cody, well, the way he seemed to shift, almost like he was becoming a stranger to the very people he once promised to protect. You started asking yourself, what's really going on here? This isn't just reality TV anymore. It's something deeper, a slow reveal of a family built on faith, now struggling under the weight of emotional neglect, financial strain, and painful favoritism. And at the center of it all, a man who once claimed to be the glue, holding it all together, now seemingly more interested in control than connection. As we peel back the layers, we'll revisit moments you might have forgotten or maybe tried not to see too clearly the first time around. Janelle's quiet strength during the pandemic, Christine's courage to walk away, Mary's search for self-worth in the shadow of rejection, and Robyn, well, let's just say her role has been more complex than we were ever led to believe. Were they all equally responsible for how things fell apart? Or were some simply trying to survive in a system that never truly had room for them? And what happens when the cameras keep rolling, but the family can no longer pretend? If you followed this story from the beginning, or even if you're just tuning in now, what you're about to hear isn't just a review, it's a reckoning, a clear-eyed look. Look at the unraveling of a family once held up as a symbol of togetherness, now fractured in ways that feel all too real. So settle in, let's walk through this story together, from the hopeful beginnings to the heartbreaking truths, one chapter at a time. Kody Brown didn't just lose a marriage. He may have missed crucial warning signs that could have helped save his son. Back in Sister Wives Season 16, Episode 7. There's a moment that sticks with you during a heated family discussion about CO protocols. Janelle turns to Cody and, without holding back, tells him to F off. It was a powerful, uncomfortable scene, but looking back now, especially with everything we've come to know since then, that moment feels even heavier, especially when you think about Janelle, their son Garrison, and how the pandemic strained their family to a breaking point. To really understand that moment, you have to rewind a bit. When the Browns moved from Utah to Las Vegas, Janelle admitted she was feeling depressed. She struggled with the family being spread out and the pressure of their uncertain finances, and she wasn't the only one feeling the weight. Her son Hunter had a tough time too. He didn't adjust well, and it was obvious Janelle carried his pain right along with him, the way any caring mom would. Fast forward to the next big move, this time to Flagstaff again. Janelle mentioned feeling low, though she said being close to nature helped lift her spirits a little. Still, that undercurrent of emotional stress never really went away. And then came the pandemic. Everything changed. Cody and Janelle weren't seeing each other since their sons Garrison and Gabriel were out working and attending school. That made things complicated, especially with Cody's strict approach to CO rules. Janelle saw something happening with Garrison. She told Cody she was worried. Garrison was lonely, something in him had shifted, but when she tried to voice those concerns, Cody didn't really want to hear it. He pushed back. She wasn't just thinking about Garrison either. Janelle was doing her best to look after her own mental health. Two, she even told the other wives how important it was for her to get out of the house now and then, just to keep her head above water. In one raw moment filmed in her car not long after that blowout with Kody Janelle opened up, "I'm between a rock and a hard place here. I'm having to make sure my kids are safe, my kids are mentally well, and I'm giving them the best chance." She mentioned that she'd been texting with Garrison all day during a drive back to Flagstaff. And when you watch that now, knowing what we know, it's clear Janelle saw the signs. She understood Garrison was struggling emotionally, maybe because she'd been through something similar herself. She was trying to keep the household steady, trying to be present, and yet Kody's response often felt cold. He dismissed Janelle's concerns. He even shrugged off Christine's issues too. Not her face. Ash once oddly said, but the fact she talked about their problems with the kids, and when it came to Garrison, Kody reacted the same way he did with Hunter years earlier, treating real emotional struggles like they were just a case of bad attitude or entitlement. What's heartbreaking is that over and over, Kody seemed to only take things seriously if they directly impacted him. If his authority was challenged, if his image was affected. That's a hard truth to face, especially when you think about a father's role. Meanwhile, other kids in the family, like Aurora, were dealing with anxiety and panic attacks, and the signs were all there. The cracks were showing. One of the few times we see Kody respond with genuine care is during Aurora's panic attacks. Christine explained that Aurora would start twitching, an early sign of an oncoming attack, and Kody seemed to handle those moments with some tenderness and attention. But that moment stands out precisely because it's an exception when you compare how he responded to Aurora with how he handled Garrison or Gabriel. The difference is stark and honestly a bit troubling. It raises real questions about Kody's consistency. As a father, later on, Janelle shared something heartbreaking Garrison had started drinking during the pandemic. He was clearly struggling. It's doubtful she kept that from Kody, even if it wasn't discussed on camera, as any mother might. She probably chose to protect her son's privacy, but the signs were there, and Janelle did try to communicate her concerns. Still, Kody kept pushing her to kick Garrison and Gabriel out of the house. Looking back, that pressure feels not just out of touch, but deeply hurtful. This is where a clear divide becomes obvious. The original three wives, Janelle, Christine, and Mary, were the hands-on parents. They were the ones nurturing their kids through all the ups and downs, even with their own personal heartaches. They made space for their children's emotional and mental well-being. Kody, he often seemed more focused on control than connection. He talked about love and family, sure, but his actions didn't always reflect those words. He was often physically and emotionally distant, and for kids who needed their dad to show up, that absence left a mark. You can see the consequences. The children weren't just going through normal growing pains. They were dealing with real emotional challenges, depression, anxiety, feelings of being disconnected from a parent who should have been there for them. These aren't just sad outcomes. They're ones that with more effort and emotional investment might have been avoided. And this pattern wasn't limited to the boys. Remember?
My Achilles heel is my kids. I'm gonna be super emotional when it comes to my kids. It's just that one place that just gets me every time.
Christine's daughter Isabel, in season 16, episode 5, Christine revealed something shocking. It had been 9 months since she learned Isabel was in constant pain from scoliosis, not occasional discomfort, daily pain. And once Christine knew, she immediately started working to get her daughter insurance so she could get surgery, but that process took months now. Isabel's scoliosis wasn't a surprise diagnosis. They knew about it. It was a long-standing, progressively worsening condition. So the obvious question is, why wasn't insurance and a plan for surgery figured out earlier? This kind of thing should have been a priority well before things got that bad. And here's where Kody's role becomes even more questionable. He didn't just hesitate about the surgery, he outright objected to it. He reportedly didn't want to use family funds and seemed to think it would be better to wait until Isabel turned 18 and could get her own insurance. That left Christine and Isabel in limbo. They could either delay critical care or try to navigate it alone. And to make matters worse, Kody made it clear he wouldn't be going with them if the surgery happened in September. He wouldn't follow Christine's lead nor the recommendations of the doctors treating their daughter. And to make matters worse, Kody made it clear he wouldn't be going with them if the surgery happened in September. He wouldn't follow Christine's lead nor the recommendations of the doctors treating their daughter. That kind of detachment, especially during a moment when a child needs support the most, feels like more than just bad judgment. It reflects a deeper issue with how Kody showed up or didn't for his family when Kody clashed with family members in the past. His go-to move was often control, not compassion. "You're not going by yourself. That is not an option," he told Christine when she was planning Isabel's surgery trip. It wasn't said with care or concern. It was another moment that revealed a pattern. Avoid the hard stuff, control what you can, and hope it all somehow works out. But underneath it all was a much bigger issue that ran across the whole family: an ongoing disregard for something as essential as health insurance. That's right, despite living in large houses, owning several vehicles, and even enjoying family vacations, consistent health coverage for the kids simply wasn't made a priority for a family of that size, and with so many kids, that's a risky and frankly troubling oversight. Now, in the early days before the show and before the money, it's quite possible the Browns qualified for state assistance, especially with so many single-parent type setups under one roof. But once sister wives gained popularity and the family's income grew, that kind of help would have no longer been available. That's when private insurance should have stepped in, but it didn't. To make things even more complicated, the surgery Isabel needed wasn't one that just any hospital could perform at the time. A procedure called anterioscoliosis correction, ASC, was still fairly specialized and only available through a select group of surgeons in the New York and New Jersey area. And here's the kicker: they didn't accept insurance at all. The surgical team required a $50 zero payment upfront, while some insurance might have helped cover things like hospital stays or physical therapy afterward. The operation itself was completely out of network, so Christine had to save the money herself. That adds a layer of understanding to the financial struggle, but it doesn't explain why no serious planning had happened earlier. Isabel had been in pain every day for 9 months. The delay in getting her care was painful in every sense of the word. This wasn't just about one parent missing the mark. It pointed to a bigger failure, a breakdown in how the adults made decisions for the good of their children. When CO hit, the family claimed they were united: no travel, stay home, follow the rules. But as we've seen time and again, what was said often didn't match what was done. If you step back, there's a wider pattern here. The Browns moved constantly. Their approach to the kids' education shifted from place to place. Healthcare was inconsistent and long-term planning almost non-existent. And when it came to something as serious as a child's major surgery, that lack of foresight caused real lasting harm. Now, let's pivot for a moment to another ongoing thread in the series: Mary. For years, Mary's storyline has been a mix of sympathy and frustration. On one hand, it's easy to feel for her. She's been emotionally sidelined, treated like an outsider in her own family, but then there are moments where her own choices make it harder to stay on her side. Take season 17. That's when Kody delivered his now infamous line saying Christine's departure felt like a knife in the kidneys, and instead of stepping back or staying neutral, Mary immediately jumped in to back him up. She implied Christine was in the wrong for leaving. Why, in her own words, she said, "I wanted to have a marriage, and so I felt like I needed to be defensive of Kody." It was what many viewers call a pick-em moment, aligning with Kody, not necessarily because she believed in what he was saying, but maybe in hopes of staying in his favor. To be fair, Mary has shown some signs of personal growth in recent years, but those moments often get overshadowed. She reverts back to seeking validation from the very person who continues to keep her at arm's length. Even in the more recent tells, we still see that familiar dynamic, with Mary seeking some form of validation from Kody and Robyn. She's made comments like, "I feel like I can be more honest now," suggesting she's starting to open up. But it's hard to see her as fully independent when she continues to defend the very people who played such a big role in pushing her to the sidelines. There have also been moments where her attitude toward Christine didn't exactly come across as supportive. During important family conversations, especially when Christine's departure came up, Mary's facial expressions often seemed, well, a little smug, like the time she heard Christine's new boyfriend might be attending a party. Her reaction, "This is the first I've ever heard about it," she said with more snark than surprise. And then there was social media, but around the time Christine started sharing cooking content online, there were posts from Mary that seemed like subtle digs, laughing at her or mocking her efforts. Whether intentional or not, that kind of behavior only deepened the rift between them. "I think it's freaking hilarious, really. I think it's hilarious," Mary once said in a tone that didn't feel lighthearted. It felt dismissive. Even her current embrace of the title favorite ex-wife hasn't helped her image. Instead of feeling empowering, it comes off like she's still clinging to the dysfunctional dynamic she's been stuck in for years. And then came the moment before one of the tell-all Cody called her to say he still wasn't over their breakup. That call said a lot. It showed how emotionally tangled things still are between them, and it also hinted that Mary might still be holding space for a relationship that, in truth, has long since ended. One big part of this might be that Mary never fully saw Christine's side for herself. Most of what she heard came filtered through Kody and Robyn, and that surely colored her view when all you're hearing is their version of events. It's easy to fall into a pattern of misplaced loyalty. At the heart of it, Mary just wanted to belong. She wanted to be included, to feel like she had a place in the family, and for years she held on, hoping things would turn around, hoping, maybe even believing what Robyn kept telling her. He still says he loves you, but when someone's perspective is shaped that way, especially in an environment where black and white thinking is common, it can create a kind of emotional trap. You stay loyal, even to people who've let you down over and over again. Mary once said, "I did every one of the things that he asked me to, and then it just wasn't good enough." Good enough.
How about you? You've been in this for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Are you going to stay in it for a long time until Cody realizes what he has in you?
And that speaks volumes. It wasn't just about this one relationship. It was about a system that raised them all to be compliant, to prioritize silence and submission in the name of spiritual harmony. This wasn't just Mary's pattern. It was baked into the whole family culture. These women weren't acting on whims. They were following a script, a set of expectations handed down to them since childhood. Don't question, don't rebel, don't leave. And when that's the belief system you've grown up with, breaking away from it isn't just brave. It's hard, really hard. Not everyone moves through that kind of shift at the same pace. And while it's fair to examine their choices, we also have to recognize that for many of them, this has been a long and painful unlearning. They say Cody and Robyn had a love blessed by God, but really, what kind of divine plan includes cheating, gaslighting, and blatant favoritism? Cody, for his part, insists there's something sacred about his relationship with Robyn. "I'll tell you what, there's a divine aspect to it," he once said, sounding more frustrated than enlightened. "And we've been slapped for it. Sick of it." According to him, God practically played matchmaker. It was, as he puts it, a spiritual love story from the start. And yet, while basking in this so-called heavenly bond, Cody remained physically involved with his other wives. If this was truly divine love, it seems odd that it came with a side of intimacy. Across multiple relationships, not exactly. The picture of spiritual clarity, he eventually pulled away from Mary and later Christine, but not before rekindling his physical relationship with Janelle. During their time in Las Vegas, so much for soulmates apparently in Cody's playbook, divine love doesn't mean loyalty or exclusivity, it just means special treatment for Robyn. His idea of love often seems more about convenience than commitment. He once smugly declared, "Oh, the act is easy," referring to his physical relationships like affection was just another item to check off the to-do list. And here's another wrinkle. During the end of Janelle's pregnancy with Madison, Christine got pregnant with McKeely. That's right, he was still growing his family with Christine while supposedly falling deeply spiritually in love with Robyn. Cody has always claimed Robyn was different, that from the moment he saw her, he knew. But this timeline tells a different story. If Christine was still getting pregnant during the early days of his so-called courtship with Robyn, how exclusive or divine could that bond have been? It doesn't quite line up. In fact, it comes across as plain old hypocrisy wrapped in spiritual language to make it sound noble. More recently, Kody's emotions have seemed less like love and more like jealousy watching Christine move on and genuinely fall in love with someone new has clearly struck a nerve. Christine's recent confession said it all. "I never loved Kody. As much as I love David, that kind of honesty cuts deep, and for Kody, it might sting because it shows what a healthy, mutual relationship actually looks like." Meanwhile, Robyn, reserved, careful, always hesitant, doesn't offer the spark or challenge Kody. Seems to thrive on what remains between them now, feels more like a shell held together, not by passion, but by memories of how much it cost everyone else this divine love. Kody talks about it was never about spiritual connection, it thrived on favoritism. Robyn positioned herself as the favored wife, and Kody seemed to enjoy playing the part of her rescuer. She subtly encouraged distance from the others, especially Janelle, well before the pandemic. Just gave them the excuse they needed. The separation wasn't ordained, it was orchestrated. Neither Kody nor Robyn thought the other wives would actually leave, but now that they have the fantasy of perfect love is all that's left, instead of facing the truth, they dig in deeper, doubling down on the myth, because if they let go of that, they'd have to admit the truth. This wasn't divine love, it was selective affection dressed up in spiritual words. And now that illusion is cracking under the weight of reality. Let's talk about what happens when a reality star with no job, no income, and no backup plan runs out of money. Kody once said he focused mostly on getting cars for the kids. Basically had a fleet, he explained casually, as though managing multiple car payments was normal. Then there's Robyn. She refuses to work and by all accounts has a serious spending habit together. She and Kody are now saddled with a massive mortgage on their new home. A home they share while the rest of the family has long since drifted away now that the other wives are gone, and with them their financial contributions. Kody and Robyn are left to face a harsh reality: the life they're living simply isn't sustainable. Kody once admitted, "I don't have anything in my name. The properties are all a mishmash." And that about sums it up, with the show likely nearing its end and with the money from TLC eventually drying up. The question becomes, what happens next? Kody's always talked about his big picture vision for the family, but these days, even he admits that vision has been shattered. You can see it in his face. He's scared. And what's his biggest fear? Poverty. He said it himself. Yet, ironically, he's lived as if the money will never stop, whether it's banking on a new show popping up on social media or dabbling in cameo. Kody seems to think success is guaranteed, as if the world will keep paying him just for being Kody Brown, but the real world doesn't work that way. And when the TLC checks stop coming in, he may be in for a rude awakening then. There's Robyn. She's made it clear she has no plans to contribute financially, no job, no backup plan, just a big house and big bills. And with no other wives left to help carry the load, that safety net Kody always relied on gone. Remember Janelle? Once said, "I always made more money than the other sister wives." She and the others paid their share, managed household expenses, and kept things afloat, even when Kody was off chasing big dreams.
If you're in school, is there a chance they'll deploy you?
Yes, there is, but I'll just end up catching up.
Here's the thing: is you go deployment.
Robyn's credit card bills were not part of the family budget now, with no financial partners left and an expensive lifestyle to maintain. Kody may be staring down a serious reckoning. He's tried to spin the story before, blaming debts from the past. But those who watched closely saw the truth: he's often chased quick fixes instead of building long-term stability that might have worked when he had 4 wives helping behind the scenes, but not anymore. "I really didn't see how the dollars and cents were going to work," Robyn once said, and now we're seeing why she lacks the experience or the mindset to handle a financial crisis. And Kody, he's shown no real interest in picking up a steady job. As Janelle once asked him, "Have I always just been a resource for you?" That question now hangs in the air, and it's more relevant than ever in the end. Both Kody and Robyn may be forced to do something they've spent years avoiding: live within their means. the illusions they clung to are crumbling. That infamous family debate where everyone denied the cracks in the system, it all came true. And now there's no denying who really caused the family to fall. Apart, watching the final moments of the latest Sister Wives tale, all felt like a moment of reckoning with the benefit of hindsight. The contradictions were glaring, the emotional weight of what's unfolded over the years left. Many viewers with a heavy heart, seasons 18 and 19 haven't made things any easier to follow. The editing has gotten so choppy, jumping back and forth through time, that it's hard to tell what's happening when 1 minute it's 2020, the next it's 2018. And suddenly we're watching events from 2023 as if nothing in between even happened. She was gaslighting everyone, Christine once said, and now it feels like the show itself is doing the same. Like we're watching a reality series that's trying to rewrite its own history. Sister Wives began as something bold, something new. It offered viewers a glimpse into what was presented as a loving, functional, plural family, a modern twist on an old, often misunderstood lifestyle. For a while, it even seemed like it might work, maybe. This family was different. Maybe their love, their communication, and their sense of shared purpose really were enough to hold it all together. But now, looking back with clear eyes, it's obvious those small cracks we saw at the edges. They weren't just cracks. They were the beginnings of something much deeper, chasms that would eventually split the family apart. Janelle once said, "I think in general, I wasn't. I'm disappointed that it turned into a debate." She was talking about a moment that in hindsight feels incredibly important. Season 6, episode 9, that's when the Browns sat down for a televised debate with a group of former polygamists, people who had lived that life and were trying to warn them about what could go wrong back then. The Browns pushed back hard. They rejected every warning. They insisted there was no jealousy, no financial strain, no emotional neglect, and certainly no controlling behavior. That's not happening here, they said, but now everything those ex-polygamists warned about has happened. Time was stretched far too thin. The children suffered emotionally. Money became a major source of conflict, and favoritism, fear, and control crept in disguised as unity. And Kody even admitted recently, "My adult children are coming after me, saying I've neglected everybody." That debate all those years ago wasn't just a conversation, it was a prophecy. Everything those guests tried to explain became real inside the Brown household. Imagine what it would be like to bring those same voices back together now, to sit them down again, but this time with the full picture in front of them. All the footage, all the confessionals, all the heartbreak. That kind of honest, full circle conversation would be more than dramatic. It would be healing. It's the clarity the audience never got. And then, of course, there's Robyn. Her now infamous line, "Don't make me a victim, sweetie," hasn't aged well. In fact, it's become something of a punchline. The tears, the breakdowns, the helplessness, it's all so rehearsed now that many viewers see it less as vulnerability and more as strategy. What exactly is she the victim of? Was she a victim when she helped make the pandemic an excuse to isolate herself and Kody from the rest of the family? Was she a victim when the other wives started leaving, not because they hated her, but because the system was no longer working? Robyn has built an identity around being misunderstood, pushed aside, or attacked, but the reality is she and Kody together slowly unraveled the very family they claimed to love. "I was trying to explain to them that I wasn't neglecting everybody," Kody said once, but by then it was too late. The emotional damage, the favoritism, the isolation, it wasn't a theory anymore. It was plain to see, and it was all recorded for the world to witness. For Christine, there's empathy. You can see the fear she lived with, a silence. She maintained she did what she could to survive within a belief system that told her to stay quiet, stay sweet, and stay put, but eventually she found the courage to leave. And that took real strength. And then there's the question of how the children view it all. Now take Maddie, for instance. Years ago, during that same debate with the ex-P polygamists, she passionately defended Kody. She believed in him, especially as a father. "What made me fall in love with my dad," she said, "was seeing him be present with his kids." But perspectives change. Maddie has always been fiercely loyal mama bear to the extreme. But watching your own father alienate nearly his entire family on national television, that kind of thing reshapes even the most devoted perspective. This is the tell-all that viewers deserve, not the carefully edited, overly polite version that smooths over years of dysfunction, but a raw, honest, unfiltered look at what actually went wrong, not for shock value, but for accountability. Because if this story has taught us anything, it's that ignoring the truth doesn't make it disappear, it only delays the moment you're forced to face it, cameras or not, and that brings us back to Meri. She often claims she's grown, that she's evolved beyond the pain and confusion of the past. But her recent actions and words say otherwise. Meri recently opened up about her relationship with Robyn and the rest of the family, despite having gone through several painful relationships herself and often lacking awareness about her own role in them. She turned around and criticized Janelle and Christine. She implied they were whining too much about Kody and Robyn, suggesting they should simply move on. It's worth noting Meri was the one who introduced Kody to Robyn. That's not speculation, it was shown on camera. Yet now Meri seems to either deny it or claim confusion about how it all happened despite clear video evidence. She also made a few eyebrow-raising comments about Robyn's daily routine, mentioning that Robyn typically goes to bed around 2 o'clock a.m. and doesn't wake up until 11 o'clock a.m. She added that Robyn would spend forever on makeup or doing her kids' hair, and then Meri used that as justification for why they needed a babysitter, because neither she nor Robyn did anything before getting ready for the day. Let's pause here. In a household with that many children, where's the room for that kind of hands-off routine during the family's travels and day-to-day chaos, meals, messes, and moments to manage? It wasn't Meri or Robyn stepping up. It was Christine, Janelle, and even Logan, the oldest child, who took the lead. They were the ones prepping breakfast, cleaning up, organizing.